أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the Master of the Day of Judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the Master of the Day of Judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is His servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. It is said that the sending of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam was for the primary objective of the achievement of perfected ethics and morals. That in his own words, the best of creation, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I was sent to perfect good character, good morals. And over the last weeks, we have been looking at a particular hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ, he says that the best from amongst you are the ones who have the best of character. And Imam al-Munawi, rahimahullah, he writes and cites a commentary by a sheikh by the name of Yusuf ibn Asbat, who says that the signs of good character are 10. That if you want to know that you have that character that the Prophet tells us to aspire towards, indications of you having those can be found in 10 unique signs. And he starts by saying that the first sign is that a person who has good character, a sign of it is that they rarely ever argue. Qillat al-khilaf. Then he says, husn al-insaf, that they treat people equitably, they give everyone their right, that there's no discrimination or qualifications in who will be treated justly. That he says that they leave behind the seeking out of flaws of others, thirdly. And that fourthly, they find beauty within people's shortcomings. That they are individuals who they seek out forgiveness. And there are people, sixthly, who are able to bear burdens of pain, that you don't let somebody just carry their remorse alone, but as a sister or brother, you walk with somebody through the difficulty that they have. May Allah grant us all characters like this. And so as the signs are further explained, he says, seventh, that if you were to look for an indicator that somebody has good character, beautiful character, that you would see that there's someone who constantly returns to reproaching their own self. Within our spiritual growth, we are given 3 categories tied to our nafs. That we have the nafs that is inclined towards that which is not good, a nafs al-amara bisu. You have as a second phase, a nafs al-lawama, which this 7th advice is talking about. That it says, ar-ruju' bil-malama ala nafsihi, that there's one that returns to the reproaching of themselves over and over, the 7th indicator of good character. And so that second phase, an-nafs al-lawama, that there's one who is the soul that is self-reproaching, that it is constantly in a place where it's rebuking itself. And then the third that is identified and defined as nafs al-mutma'inna, the soul that is in a state of tranquility. May Allah grant us all souls that are like this. That notion of being in a state where you have good character and that you can be that individual that on your own is engaging your nafs in such a way that you yourself are taking yourself into account. That Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah, he says in his Ihya that he doesn't need other people to rebuke him or repudiate him or scold him or condemn him or reproach him, because he's already doing that to himself. But to be able to understand how this ties itself to a productive mode of introspection and reflection, to be somebody who has personal responsibility and personal accountability, that engagement of the self is very distinct from self-blame, which tells us to just hate ourselves. That can lead towards difficult emotions, negative heaviness, things that are paralyzing, like depression, anxiety, grief. May Allah protect us from these things. And may Allah protect us from being the cause of these things within others. Self-blame is not the goal of the self that is reproaching. That you give shaitan assistance and victory over your heart by categorizing yourself as an individual who can only do wrong and is the cause of all problems. And it's not even a victimized mentality, but a mentality is such that the world just shackles you in a place where it identifies you as being inadequate and having no principle of goodness within you. But the one who has the self-reproaching soul is the one who understands that they make mistakes and seeks to do better than that. And even where they do better, they look to see where they can improve. But in order to see where you can improve upon the good that you do, it necessitates knowing that you also do good. That you're not just in a prism or a sphere where all you see of yourself is that things are not there. That things are lacking, that things are inadequate, that there is deficiency. Can we have everyone please just move in close? We can come in as close as possible. And this nafs that is described as lawama, it goes hand in hand with our own personal sense of maturity. That we get to a place where, just like you and I grow as adults, that my son is literally standing next to me. You might not be able to tell because we're pretty much the same height. But his ability to engage the world around him is going to be attached to his being 3 years of age. His sister is 6 years old. The maturity that they might espouse uniquely, that as parents we believe all of our children are just the best at everything. My children are the best at everything, mashallah. It's not something that we should also limit our understanding in terms of our own spiritual growth. That when he or she, my son and my daughter, grow older and their bodies grow physically, and so too everything about them in that physical sense grows, and there are indicators and signs of their physical maturation. So too, if you and I as people of faith are trying to understand the development of our character and our spiritual maturation, then you move from a place where you get to that space of being the one who is able to be self-reproaching. Because you can't have spiritual ascension if you believe that you don't make mistakes. As much as you can't have spiritual ascension if you don't recognize your ability to spread light into the world. That the verse, it tells you that you and I, we have that capacity. That from us can come fujur, and from us can come things that are rooted in taqwa, that we have the ability within ourselves to be people of immense beauty and people of immense ugliness. But the notion of being somebody who has the maturity of an adult within our tradition is that first and foremost, you can acknowledge it. So that it's not constantly the world around you that is to blame for everything. But you get into a sphere and a space, and there is wisdom that this seventh sign follows up the one that came before it, that said that you bear the burden. You bear the harm. You help to carry the pain of people around you. Because now when you see the link between 6 and 7, then where you're at is that you want to surround yourself with people who are going to help carry some of the pain that life throws at you sometimes. To not only be in a sphere and a space where your heart is just in the presence of those who are constantly tearing you down so that you only tear yourself down. And that growth, when you are in that state of reproachment, it doesn't have to be forever. Every time you sit to think about how it is you bring about effective change. I've sat down with a lot of men and women who are Muslim, born into Islam, some who have converted, but from across walks of life that have struggled with alcoholism. May Allah make things easy for them. And when people turn towards substance, it's not because always they're bad people or they don't know what's haram, but a lot of time people turn towards outlets that give them temporary satisfaction because they don't have the support from the people around them that they need. And if you're in a place where you are so deeply entrenched in a habit that it becomes an addiction, the idea of being able to leave behind a part of you that you know is not doing good for you but is still there with you becomes daunting in and of itself, because forever is forever. And so what they tell people in Alcoholics Anonymous, the first time they walk into a meeting, or the last time they go into a meeting, or every single time that they go into a meeting, isn't that kick this out of your system till the end of your days, but they say take it a day at a time. That when you start the day, you end the day trying your best to not fall into that thing that you know you shouldn't be falling into. And as you start to have the days exceed that you are not falling, exceed the ones that you do fall, you start to build with a sense of self-love and self-understanding the ability to distinguish now what it means to be someone who has personal accountability and responsibility, self-reproachment versus self-blame. It's okay to congratulate yourself when you achieve. And when you're in a space where your achievement is the overcoming of haram, or your achievement is the engagement of benefit into society, to say that yes, there's room to grow and move and have that type of mindset doesn't mean also that in the moment you can't have a sense of success and growth as you move forward. A sister in our community who struggled with alcoholism on a real deep level came to see me, and she said that, I don't want to drink anymore. And we started to talk about how it is that she could take that on within herself. And as we started to move the conversation forward, a few weeks passed and we got to a place where her anxiety increased. And I said, what's the problem? And she said, I'm going to go home and my entire family drinks. And I know that if they don't see me drinking, they're going to think something's wrong. So I said, here is my number. Take it. If you have a problem, just give me a call. I didn't hear from her for a few weeks. I got a little bit worried. But then when I saw her and we sat down and I said, how did it go? She said, it was amazing. My family was so drunk they couldn't tell I was drinking. And I said, I don't know, I guess. But then she started. She engaged in a process where she knew that the battle that was taking place for her internal was something that she couldn't sleep on. And that the challenge that she faced might be unique to her, or even if they weren't, they were still subjective enough in their feeling that she knew she was the biggest catalyst for her success over whatever it was that Shaitan was trying to take from her inside. And so some days she slipped and some days she didn't, but the days that she didn't slip started to exceed the ones that she did. We got to 6 months, I said, call up your friends and let's take everybody out for dinner. And we didn't have to tell them why we were taking her out for dinner, because the celebration wasn't for them, it was for her. when you have the opportunity to understand that the reality we find ourselves in has been identified in so many ways in our tradition to tell us that it's hard sometimes. Our prophet has told us that there will come a time as days go by towards the end of days that holding on to one sunnah will be holding on to like a burning coal. May Allah make it easy for us. So if you don't have a sense of self-love in your introspection, and you let your nafs be what it is that dictates, that tells you you can't be better, I would say no, you are actually good. And a good person can always improve and be better. But the default doesn't have to be one that says that I identify myself purely through the prism of inadequacy, that reproach suddenly turns into this heaviness of blame that makes me believe that I have no right to stand on the prayer mat. I have no right to prostrate my head. That it is for somebody else to read that book or live that sunnah. No, it's for you, man, more than anybody else. You just allow for yourself to understand that when you slip, Allah is not just watching you, He's watching over you. And in whatever way possible, our God just wants simply what's best for us. And so you start to be comfortable with the idea that you have the ability to make mistakes. As much as you have a comfort with the idea that you have the ability to actually go out and do a lot of things that are beneficial. And then you start to move forward in both frames, and you are constantly in a state where you are processing and looking back to yourself, which becomes the 8th sign of good character that Imam al-Munawi, he cites Yusuf ibn Asbat as saying when he makes commentary on the hadith, that the best from amongst you are the ones that have beautiful character. Point 8, he says, is that you focus on yourself. Now you can take that in a principle that says, mind your own business, stay in your lane, don't pay attention to somebody else, but grow yourself, and that's there. But focus in our religion means that you have to, at times, prioritize you over the things that distract you from taking care of you. Because the understanding is that this is about explaining what it means to have a sign of good character. And a person that has good character is a person whose sense of etiquette with those that are around them is rooted in something that is ethical, moral. There's goodness that's there. And so the focus on the self that is an indication of how somebody can have that good character is that for you to do right by other hearts and take care of other hearts means you got to take care of your own heart. And if you're in a space where you put everything else above you, work is more important than your self-care. Your job is more important than your self-care. Being in a place where chasing after dunya is more important than your self-care. Being in a place where toxic relationships are more important than your self-care. Being in a place where you're constantly just running on fumes over and over and over with no sense of outlets, no sense of breathing, no sense of rest. Then you're not taking care of yourself. And if you don't take care of you, which you are important enough to be taken care of, then you're definitely not going to be doing right by others. If you don't sleep enough, you're going to get more agitated and irritated. If stresses are just in abundance and your outlets are escapes from reality rather than means through which you enhance the understanding of the reality you find yourself in, you're going to definitely treat people like garbage. If you go through a place where there is constant anxiety from the minute you wake till the minute you go to bed, and there is no direct process through which you are finding healing inside, then when you yell and you scream and you curse and you fight, you argue with the ones that you should be telling that you love them, the ease through which you break promises and oaths, the ability to not honor the right of one that is over you, the exhaustion, the tiredness that comes in from chasing after complacency and the absence of then real contentment. And so he says that that eighth sign is that you are in a place where you focus on yourself. What distracts you from taking care of you? And is it really worth it in the end of the day? If you're in a place where you are sleeping super late in order to spend your time doing something that a month from now you're not even going to remember that you did it, and not because you were doing something that made you lose your mind in the moment, but because the thing that you were doing really just wasn't worth creating the memory around it that it would be meaningful for the rest of your life. That you are in a place where time spent is just about escaping and not about enhancing or deepening understanding. What did you do for yourself today? What have you done for yourself this week? And not in the sense that you're just completely at your wit's end and you just can't take it anymore, but purposefully, strategically, with a sense that you don't want to keep falling into the same mess over and over and over. Because even if it hurts somebody else, when you unleash your exhausted anger on them, it's also hurting you. When you're in a place where the complaints and the negativity become prevalent and just run in abundance, so you spend some time with an understanding that if you want to know how some people, they're just smiling well and they're doing right by others, they don't look down at people because their skin color is different or they have a different accent than them. They're in a place where they're okay in letting elder people eat first, or they'll never watch somebody else carry something out of a room, but they'll jump to be the one to say, I want to volunteer first. Many of them are also probably sleeping really well. They're smart about what it is that they're putting into their bodies in terms of food and drink. They don't allow their understanding of consumption to be limited to just conversations of what is eaten and drank also, but they're thoughtful about what is going into them through their ears that they listen to, and their eyes what they see, and how they absorb so much around them. And so he says, an eighth sign of somebody who has good character is that they know how to focus on themselves, and they focus on themselves. Your heart is precious, man. If you're going to give it up for anything, let it be only Jannah, because that's the only thing you should exchange it for. Somebody pushes on you, let them push to the extent that it makes sense. Don't give away your ajr for something that is ridiculous. If you find yourself in a space where the world is heavy, then you have to make the choice to be positive and seek positivity and go out and bring light into the arenas where there's darkness. But if you don't get to that place, because everybody else keeps telling you that, you know what? That money, it's important. That dunya, it's important. So much so that you don't get to spend time with the most beautiful parts of your life. You don't share in real interactions and relationships rooted in actual goodness and beauty. So my sense of self is achieved through what? And the two, they go hand in hand, the self-reproaching individual and the one who focuses on themselves. Because in the process of doing your own muhasabah and taking yourself into account, you can sit down and say, is it really worth it what I'm chasing after? And in the end, is it going to give me the contentment that I seek? Or are there other things that I can be doing that I know are going to do right by me? For those of you who are younger, and your physical selves have not caught up to what they might be down the line, this is the time to build in good habits of self-care, where you sleep well, you eat well, you rest well, you keep good company, you engage in practices that understand your physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental wellness is attached to building out habits that are routine within your regular schedule so that it doesn't just build up and build up and build up, and then you just erupt and erupt and erupt until you get to a day where anger is just all you know how to give. Agitation is just all you know how to give. Anguish is just all you know how to give. And so you start in a place, as was mentioned in the point before, that when the person who's trying to overcome their alcoholism goes to Alcoholics Anonymous, they don't tell them that you're in this and you got to take it on forever, but they say just take it a day at a time. Be patient with yourself and allow for yourself to understand that you have a right to take care of you because you are important. And then beyond that, your individual healing and your individual growth will be what catalyzes our collective growth for us. So as he continues on with that commentary, he says, as a seventh sign of good character, is that you are in a place where you are returning to self-accountability, self-reproach of your nafs. And then eighth, that you focus on yourself. It's something we should think about while we have the time to do so. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present herein and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all other hearts that are gathered here only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Increase us in courage, compassion, and confidence. Protect us from anxiety, anguish, or any affliction. Grant us hearts that are free from any feelings of bitterness, jealousy, animosity, or envy towards any of your creation. And grant us hearts that are filled with understanding and hope. Hearts that are drawn towards mercy and beauty. Hearts that find themselves in a state of rest and tranquility through your remembrance. For indeed in your remembrance do hearts find rest. Ya Allah, make us from amongst those who remember you always. Ya Allah, in this world that seems heavy, we ask that you make us a source of illumination. To be those who find goodness within ourselves and move forward with the boldness to share that goodness with your creation that surrounds us. Through us, Ya Allah, feed your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, clothe your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, give shelter to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, give hope to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, be generous to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, be merciful to your creation. Through us, Ya Allah, love your creation. And instill within us a sense of self-love that gives us confidence. And remove from our hearts a love of the self that brings about within us arrogance. make us those who have the capacity to recognize all that we can do, to ask of you to remove from our lives anything that distracts us. Make us those who take care of the hearts that you have given to us, and to not prioritize any part of this dunya in sacrifice of the most precious parts of what exists within us. Let this day of Jummah be a day of blessing and barakah for each and every one of us. Make us from amongst those whose prayers and du'as are answered and accepted on this day. Grant us the stillness that we seek so that our hearts are not distracted, and enable us to speak at this moment to you with immense sincerity, so that each of our heart's most secrets of wishes turn to you in the ways that only dua can bring those desires. And we ask you, Ya Mujib, to answer each and every one. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأقيموا الصلاة.